Hi everyone, Tom Slivick, and with me is Brian Oneto, Supervisor. How you doing, Brian?
Doing good, thank you, Tom.
I've had you come on because I know you and John Plaz, you sat on the LDRD, right?
Yes, it's limited density rural dwelling, so
right.
LDRD. Mm-hmm.
And that passed yesterday with the Board of Supervisors, am I right?
Yes, it was a 5-0 vote.
Okay, so Brian, what was the reason to come up with this?
Well, how it came about, Tom, was I'd seen it years back and it looked intriguing, and I talked to some of the staff and they kind of looked at it, and I couldn't get a lot of support. Just people kind of doing other things, and then one day John Plaz went to a RCRC meeting, and he came back and was talking about it, and he said, he thought this might be a pretty good deal for the county. And I said, yeah, I think it is too. And so both of us started kind of working on it and got some more support from staff, and brought it forward. And what it does is it allows people in rural areas of the county to build a home, still a good home, but a little more affordable. And it's built to like a 1985 building code standard, which it has a lot of the energy efficiency standards. And also you don't have to put in fire sprinklers, where if you get out in a rural area, putting in a fire sprinkler system is very expensive. It's not like if you're on city water, a lot cheaper, a lot easier to do. If you're in rural lots, it's very expensive. And it would allow homes.
That's because you have to come up with the water to be able to use. So
you gotta have more water. You gotta have more water, bigger pumps.
Okay.
And it's pretty, talk to like one of the builders, I think it was Rick Cabry, testified at one of our meetings. The house he's doing is about $18,000 additional cost. That's a lot of money if you're out trying to build a home, especially with economics right now. People are hurting. If local people especially want to build a house, it's going to help them a lot.
Okay. Now, one of the big, it wasn't a stumbling block, but one of the big items, and only got defined for yesterday's meeting, was what rural means. So what's their definition now, Brian? What's a working definition for that?
You know, Tom, there was some discussion over that, and originally the board was saying like a 1-acre parcel that was outside community service district, and that was outside a city would qualify. And there's some people were concerned about that, and so ended up the board said, okay, they'll make definition of rural. So what this ordinance would apply to would be parcels that are basically like you have like Mountain Diablo Basin Meridian, a range which like you have 13, 14, and there's a line goes through there. Everything west of there would be 5 acres and larger would have in order to qualify. Everything above that would be can be whatever size it is, but planned developments would be excluded. Like Kirkwood would not be able to build a limited density.
Okay, so that line is basically talking about a lot higher up, and where there people are probably putting in maybe. I believe you guys were talking about like hunting cabins or weekend cabins or whatever, but generally you do that on a much smaller scale than 5 acres, right? Yeah,
you're looking more like Silver Lake, Bear River, and some of those lots up there, 1/4 acre, maybe smaller. And so how it would apply is from basically Dewdrop on Highway 88,
okay,
everything kind of east of there and kind of to the south. Actually, all of Amador County above Dewdrop.
Right.
It would apply to that, excepting Kirkwood, which is a planned development. There you cannot build a home under the limited density rural dwelling. And so all the rest of the county below that line, you'd be able to build a LDRD house, excepting the cities.
Okay.
And that is 5-acre parcels if it's 5 acres and larger.
All right. Now, all the planning, everything else is all of the same. All of the fees and all of
as far as the impact fees, they're all the same.
Okay.
You might see some of your inspection fees may be a little bit less because at times there can be less inspections on an LDRD home.
So the inspection process then, it sounded to me, I attended a few of the meetings, that you get a final inspection Or do you get inspected through every phase of the building?
You have a final inspection. I believe electrical is inspected also.
Okay. So the concern that some had that these might be homes that would be built that would not be basically say up to code, or the idea that maybe they be considered like substandard, or that the board didn't see that as being an issue because they would be built to a very good code, actually, right?
Exactly. It's kind of like, personally, I kind of viewed that a little bit as being a red herring. Okay. It's like you look at probably, if I had to guess, 75% of homes in Amador County, taking that tact, would be substandard homes because they're built pre-1985. I mean, the house you live in is probably a substandard home. The house I grew up in was a substandard home.
Which I think goes back probably past 50 years ago, the original part, and then there were additions that were put on it at the time.
And it's probably a perfectly good house. And a lot of these homes that are built, they're perfectly good homes. Will they have the fire sprinklers, the LDRD? If you want to put them in, you can. If you don't under LDRD, you don't have to.
All right, Brian, windows, how about windows? Did they have dual pane windows back at that time? I know I replaced almost all of my windows.
And that's something, in the 85 building standards, you have the dual pane windows, the better energy windows. Would have to have a tempered glass. It appears, no. And CAL FIRE got up and spoke, and they said they really don't see what the tempered windows accomplishes.
Okay.
So that would not be a requirement.
Okay. You had brought up a personal point, I believe, because you had dealt with that, or could have dealt with that when you were building something. I believe that you have, a lot of people know that you're a timber filler, your family's been in timber and stuff like that, hauling and things, about the graded lumber, because that is also something that you can build with now. What is that?
Yeah, no, family's been in timber and agriculture, cattle, since the 1860s. What that was, when I was looking to build my house over in Drytown, my wife and I were, about 2003, I want to say, I thought, we've got some real nice timberland, we take good care of it, and we have some real nice timber, and I thought, I'd rather have some lumber that is better than what you can buy at the store, and I thought, I'd like to cut my own. I would like to do that. It'd be something personally I'd like to do. Mm-hmm. And so I looked into it, and it came out that if you want to build a house now, you can't use your own lumber unless you have it grade stamped by certified, I can't remember the correct term, grader, and it has to have a WWPA, I believe that's a stamp. You must stamp every board. And trying to find somebody to come out and do, every 2x4, every 2x6, it was going to be real expensive,
In other words, while you're milling it, they need to be by?
While you're milling it, they have to come through and go through the whole stack and stamp every board, look at every board, and the lumber I was going to be producing and using would be better than what you could buy. So I finally said, I'll just go ahead and use, I don't want to say substandard wood from the lumber yards, but they have good, the wood they have is usable, nothing wrong with it. But I wanted nicer wood.
Well, like you had said, if you have timber and you wanted to make your ridge beam or something out of something that was off your land, and that's that's something very personal. You're building a home, and also it was made from the timber that was right here, in my lands or something like that. It sounds to me like what a lot of the early pioneers did, right?
And this is something in order to do that, you'd have to have the building department say yes, what you have there will meet our criteria, and it's acceptable to use. You can't just go in there and use anything.
So in a way, this is did you see it, or did John Plass as well? And John, I don't want you to speak for John, but as maybe the regulations were too stringent, is this a way of pulling some regulation back, Brian?
I don't know if I'd say that. I'd say it's a way of giving the people opportunity to build a house that's still a good, sound, affordable home, a little bit cheaper.
Okay.
Another item I'd like to address too is like if you have something's a home gets burnt or gets demolished and you want to go rebuild that home, if you've got insurance, maybe they'll cover all additional costs. If you don't have insurance, you may have a home that's built, say, 1970, 1990, whatever, and you want to build a home, say like 1990 home similar. You can't build the home you had before. You have to build a 2014 building code, and it's going to be a lot more expensive. So this is where you can build a house. It's still a good, affordable home, and people can afford to do.
Brian, when you were going through this, did you have people coming up to you and saying they thought this was a good idea, or how they would use this? Was it?
I would say probably for every person that didn't like it, I probably had 8 to 10 that thought it was a good idea.
Okay, and there were reasons? Did they give you reasons why they thought it was a good idea? Were they personally wanting to probably build like this?
A lot of them weren't looking to personally build, but I think they thought it was a little bit, getting back a little bit more of a freedom. It's a way to build a home affordable, because people are saying the cost to build anymore are just getting astronomical. And some of them hit me up on the county's impact fees. They were saying, those are too high. And so yeah, there was a fair number of people that talked to me about it.
Okay, and all right. So this is when can people start? I guess pulling permits to build like this. How does that process work? We have about 1 minute. How does a person come in and say, "Oh, we have 1 more minute"? I'm sure you can get a hold of that. Tell us a little bit about the disaster council meeting at HHS.
They had a disaster council meeting today at HHS,
okay.
And that's where a bunch of government agencies got together and we're talking about water, fire, what they saw as far as the drought, how severe it's going to be. It looks like it's fairly severe right now, and the National Weather Service is saying it looks like it's probably not going to get better, maybe worse. CAL FIRE was concerned about the fuel moistures. They're saying the fuel moistures right now are very low, and we're coming out of winter, and the fuel moistures are almost like, if I remember what he said correctly, almost like going into summer.
Okay.
Or more like at the end of summer, where the fuel moistures are like 50%, 60% in a lot of the all vegetation. It should be like 150%. So they're a little bit concerned about that.
Okay. All right. So, Brian, I want to thank you for coming by and
thank you, Tom.
And talking about the LDRD and also continuing with concerns about the drought here in California. So, thanks for watching TSPN, and we'll see you again next time. You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.